So we are joined on set by Ann Hopkins, who can speak firsthand about what happens when people don't have access to the abortion care that they need. Ann, will you share your story with us?
I sure will. I'm one of the seniors around here. In 1965, I rode in the back seat of a car through the streets of Tijuana, Mexico. Sitting beside me was a man who just minutes earlier had separated me from my boyfriend and a huge sum of cash and led me out of this dark, windowless bar. Our driver was another man. So here I am in a foreign country, no passport, no money. I didn't speak the language, and nobody that I knew that cared about me knew. So that's a situation that is beyond frightening. What happened then was I thought, you know, this is the kind of situation that our lawmakers think is okay for women who have sex. Well, that's just not acceptable. Back in my day, if you thought you were pregnant and you missed a period, you didn't just run down to the drugstore and get a test. You had to make a doctor's appointment, you had to take a test, wait a couple of weeks for some poor lab animal to die to confirm your pregnancy. We relied on the rhythm method and condoms, not very reliable. At one point, I had asked a doctor to write me a prescription for the new birth control pills. They were very new at that time and some sense of risk about taking them. And his message to me was that he wouldn't write a prescription for an unmarried woman because it offended his morals. Now, if this doesn't sound familiar to you, now here we are again, offending some bureaucrats' morals. When I had my abortion in 1965, 53 years ago, Roe v. Wade wasn't even on the horizon. I was barely 19 years old, a sophomore at the University of California, and in a committed relationship. So why did I risk my life to take that ride with my boyfriend down to Tijuana? Because I knew I was the only expert on my own life. I was not going to burden anybody else. I was not prepared to have a child. My education was incomplete. I would not be able to support a child adequately with the skills that I had at the time. You know, when I hear anti-abortion activists talking about how proud they are that their mother didn't have an abortion and allowed them to be here, I think of my own two daughters. If I had not arrested the development of that biological blueprint that might maybe become a child, I would never have known my stepdaughter. I would never have had my natural daughter. And to me, that is just an awful thought. So how did this story wind up in Tijuana, you might wonder? Well, the only real visual image I remember from that day is the car driving up to the gates of a hacienda in an affluent neighborhood and the flood of relief that came over me. Inside was a professional clinical setting. The procedure was quick, relatively painless, and everything just went fine. But I was a lucky one. It could have been otherwise.
Thank you, Ann. So I wanted to ask you a couple questions. What connections do you see between yourself and the Jane Doe cases?
You know, when I listened to the video of Jane Doe and how she was sure of her decision, it was very reminiscent to me in 1965. She, like I was, is the only expert on her life. She looked at her situation. She's incarcerated. Her immigration status isn't secure at all. And she had hopes and dreams for her own precious life. And I just am in awe of the poise and determination that she showed to see through and do what she knew what was right for her.
Mm-hmm. Also, Anne, why are you sharing your story today, and what hopes do you have in sharing your story?
Because Congress is nuts. We do not need to go back to this behind the scenes, get it done however you can scenario. It is not right for bureaucrats to impose their own personal beliefs on women. They need to go sit in a dark room with a glass of scotch or bourbon or whatever and find and reactivate their empathy gene. And they need to ask themselves, why do I not respect women?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Anne, for being here.